Gukesh won the World Chess Championship with a checkmate. That's the last time that the World Chess Championship was won with a checkmate was 1929. That's 98 years ago. It's a long time. Not only that, Gukesh walked away with $1.3 million, 600,000 from the final game that he won, and then 200,000 from the other games that he came in. Where they tied, they had to split the winnings. So he did fantastic, and that's so exciting that he did that. So I want to take a quick look at the game, and I want to look at the error that he made. What was the error that he made? So let's take a look at what that looks like. So let's just kind of quickly go through the game and see what happened. Ding Liren starts with the ready. I love this opening. I've been playing it recently and I like it. And so Queen's pawn for Gukesh, and then maybe getting ready for for his next move. Ding moves to G3, and then Gukesh moves a pawn up, and Ding moves the bishop up for a fianchetto or King's Indian, and he goes to threaten, to challenge the pawn. He has two things on this pawn, and of course, Gukesh only has one, so that was a good move. And instead of taking, Gukesh continues to develop. Very cautious, excellent, continuing to develop his chess pieces. And so then Ding castles, which is the King's Indian. It's a fantastic place. It's very well protected. And now he takes the pawn, and then Ding retakes, and then we're kind of ready to do something more here, and he takes with his knight, and then he takes with his knight, and then he takes. We're still even. We're still even on all the pieces. The best you could expect from two players of this caliber would be a draw, and that's really commonly what it is. So when Ding's queen is threatened, he goes all the way back to D1, and Gukesh advances a pawn. Ding answers with a pawn at E3, and Gukesh protects that, and so then it's equal again. We're just equal. 6 pawns apiece, the same number of pieces on the board, and Gukesh castles, very strong. I don't know. Sometimes you think that these 3 pawns up here are going to be stronger than the pawns like that. I actually have better success with this kind of castling rather than castling with a fianchetto bishop in the middle. And so then Ding puts his knight up to B5, and I don't know why Ding put his bishop there. I'm not sure why. But anyway, Ding continues to develop with a pawn to B3. And so then he threatens the knight, and he moves it down to... if he'd moved it down here instead, then Gukesh would have had the knight and the bishop and the queen. And so and he could have taken the knight. I mean, he would have lost his knight. So going to C3, he protects his knight. His knight gets away to fight another day. So then Gukesh threatens the knight with a bishop, and Ding protects, and Gukesh continues to develop with a pawn to E5. And then Ding puts his queen up 1. I'm not sure why, except, of course, it protects this knight, and it wasn't protecting the knight. So now we have 2 pieces on the knight, just in case, something's going to happen there. So Gukesh goes to threaten here. And so it's like that Ding offers his knight to be traded. And, of course, now if this pawn here is taken, then, of course, it would leave this weak. But, of course, this pawn can take. So, and that's what he does. He takes, and then, which leaves this knight unprotected. And I don't really get that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that Gukesh didn't take the knight here. I don't really get that. Seems like he should have taken the knight at that step. Instead, they trade pawns, and the knight escapes, sort of, and the knight gets captured. Ding threatens Gukesh's queen. Gukesh moves out of the way, and then Ding puts his bishop on f3, and Gukesh takes a pawn, and it's an exchange. Now, this is interesting. So this is why en passant was created. So when Ding plays his a pawn up to a3, a4, then Gukesh can take en passant. En passant was made just for this situation. In a final game, that if you advance your pawn 2 places, when there's another pawn sitting there ready to take it, it gets to take it anyway, which is what he did. And so then he takes with the bishop, with the rook. And now we have 3 and 3 pawns. And this playing, trying to win the game, of course. It's a draw. At this point, it's a draw. Looks like a draw. And so he puts his queen here. I'm not sure because really we have 3 pieces on that pawn. So it'd be easy to take that pawn because Ding only has 1 piece on it. So he moves it up, and now it has just 1 piece still. And so the queen takes, and so they change queens, and that was the point where Ding came 1 pawn down. Now, you wouldn't think that would be that big a deal. When you have all your pieces on the board and you have 1 pawn down, it's no big deal. But when you get down to just the very last dregs of the pieces, that 1 pawn, as you'll see in a little bit, it can make a difference. All right, so he takes, and then he goes, and then the rook takes and the bishop takes. Now we have a situation. This bishop is captured here. He can only escape this way. He can't go any other direction. And you're going to see how that plays a role in just a minute. So Gukesh advances his pawn, and he doesn't want to trade at that point. Oh, it would have made for a weak pawn. All right, so then Ding moves his rook over, possibly to go up here and cause some trouble. And so Gukesh moves his king, so he can't do that. Puts his king up anyway, because now he has 2 pieces on this pawn, so he can take that. That's Ding's focus. And instead, Gukesh moves his bishop back to protect it, so now he has 2 pieces. Whenever you have 2 pieces on the same number of pieces, the same number of defenders on a piece, and the same number of attackers, it favors the defender. You have to have 1 extra piece guarding something in order for you to come out ahead in an attack like this. So then he's going to tries to trade rooks, doesn't work, and he goes and puts the king in check. Ding's king moves up, and Gukesh moves his rook here. He continues to develop his pawns. This comes up with a way to get the pawns up. So then he puts his rook there to threaten the bishop. Bishop moves, and he's moving his king. He's gonna he's gonna come down here and try to get a queen, etc. That's everybody's end goal at this part of the game, if at all possible. He moves his king down. Gukesh moves his rook, and then Gukesh threatens the bishop. The bishop moves to threaten the rook, and the rook threatens the bishop, and the bishop goes here, and the king keeps coming down. And so, as you can see, 3 pawns against 2. Everything else is equal. So he moves his pawn up, and then Gukesh moves a pawn, and Ding takes, Gukesh takes, and now it's 2-1. And that is the fateful thing that's going to happen in a minute. So Ding protects his bishop, and Gukesh moves his bishop to get more scope. And then we have was that a discover check? No, just a check. So Gukesh puts the king in check. The king has to move down. Now, the king is severely limited where he can go now. Can't go here because of this bishop, and of course he can't move anywhere here like that. He's definitely contained at this point. So he moves his king up and gets in check, moves it back down. It would have been very easy for these men to have repeated enough moves that they would have been able to just call it a draw. But then it would have had to go into the long, drawn-out process that happens after this, where the rules exist. I don't remember exactly what they were, but it's long and drawn out as far as I'm concerned. So Gukesh moves his bishop down to protect, and they're just, moving their pieces around, threatening something. Now, this move here was probably not a good place for him to move, because there's no escape. There's no escape at that point. He can't go here. He can only go there. And that's the thing that really caused trouble, I think, in a minute. So Ding moves his bishop here. I'm not sure why. He threatened. It looks like that he's just moving here to threaten the rook, but the rook's protected by a pawn. Can't do anything. And then Ding moves his rook to trade. And so you want to trade. When you're up pieces, you want to trade everything. Because if you're up a piece or two and you trade everything, then you're going to win the game. And so he takes the rook, and then Gukesh, he has to trade the bishop. The bishop has no choice because he can't escape. So he trades bishops, and now is the time that he moved his king up, and Gukesh moved his king, and then he resigned. So now, what's up with that? There's no way to win? Is it a foregone conclusion that Ding has indeed lost the game at this point? So I have a chess analysis board from chess.com to kind of look at this. It's White's turn to move. So this king, you can see he can move any of these squares. The king can move. So it wouldn't make sense for him to move away from the what's happening. Instead, he's going to move here, and get closer, stay closer to where the action is. And you can see that. You can see the bar. Yeah, you can see the bar goes up. So he goes where the action is, and then it is Black's turn to move. And so Black can't go here because it's in check. It could go here. So if Black goes here, then it's White's turn, and White would still want to go where the action is. So he could move here, but you wouldn't want to move away. Move here and hope that you get put in, a stalemate. But notice the progress bar. It's a foregone conclusion. So now Gukesh could have gone to trade pawns, and the pawns would have been traded. And now we have two kings and one pawn. What in the world is going to happen? So Ding can move here, and so then Gukesh would have advanced his pawn. And so the king would have moved down probably because he's hoping to get a stalemate. And so then Gukesh would have moved, and then Black has left or right. Let's go here where maybe you have your most trouble, your most possible win. And then Gukesh would move here, and then so you'd have to move here, and that is a loss. So then Gukesh would have moved there, and that's White goes back up. I'm not sure what to do about that. And that is stalemate. So he wouldn't have done that. Would have been here. So I don't know what he could have done here. Don't know. I had it worked out earlier. I'll have to come back to this. So here are the moves that both world champions saw. Something like this. It could have been different. But it's White's turn to move. And so White is going to stay as close to the action as possible. So Gukesh would have moved down, and then White would have stayed here as best he could, and Gukesh could have moved down, and then white really could have gone over here. And then if Gukesh had moved here, then this king could have only had one place to go, right here. And at that point, Gukesh would have taken the pawn, and now he has 2 pawns. That's fantastic. And Ding could only have gone here, and Gukesh could have gone here, and now his pawns have a clear path to victory. So the king would have tried to move here probably, because he wants to have a stalemate. So Gukesh could have moved his pawn down, and then this king had one place to go, and so Gukesh would have just brought this pawn down, and so he's still hoping to have a have something that he can actually win the game from. And so then, if Gukesh brought this pawn down, being very careful not to stalemate anybody, the king only has one place to go. So then Gukesh could have moved down, and he's protecting this square, so this pawn can come down and become a queen. So the only reasonable thing Ding would have had was to take this pawn, and this pawn would have become a queen, and then it would have been a simple matter to checkmate the the opponent. If you have a king and a queen, I guess we could run through it pretty fast, but he would have perhaps tried to run away, and it wouldn't have been a bad thing to try to run away. So then he would have gone here, and then the king would have perhaps gone here. I don't know that they would have tried to run away. So then you just keep getting the king as close. If he goes like this, and then the queen could come here, and he has to go back, and you just keep hurting the king over somewhere. So he would go here, but either way, it's really getting to be a problem. And so the king would go there, and so then he would bring his other king over. And you want to make sure that you don't stalemate your opponent. You put your queen here. He has to go here, and then don't stalemate. So you go here, and then the king only has one place to go. He can either go here or there. Let's just say that he goes that he goes here. If he goes here, then the queen goes here, and at that point the king only has this row to move on. And so Gukesh would have brought his king up, and then at that point Gukesh would have gone here. It would have been checkmate. It would have drawn the game out more moves. But as a 1,000 player, it's like, wait a minute, is it a lost game? Yes, it was a lost game, absolutely lost game, and both players saw it. And then you could see that Ding walked away frustrated, a lot of emotion, and Gukesh, of course, fantastic positive emotion. So a very exciting game, very fantastic, and that's the error that Ding made, and that is what we just covered here.